am Sarah.
And I'm Noomix.
And I'm Vaporeuse.
For this build, we decided to switch things up. We each got a random roll, which ended up in us doing things we usually don't. At least we tried. It started as a blind challenge where we just continued on what the previous ones had done. No communication, just surprises. We programmed a randomizer that assigned us our jobs, which were shell and landscape, exterior roof, doors and windows, and interior paint, and then all build items. Usually I do all the detail work, but I got the shell, which I'm notoriously bad at. I'm also the one doing the voiceover. Hi! Ugh, where's Vaporeuse when you need her? Vaporeuse usually does our shells, and I really appreciate her even more now. You can see already that I'm struggling with the shape of the build. I went and looked for floor plans for smaller builds or just regular houses online, and I found a couple of little houses that I liked, so I decided to try to mash them together. I really need to stick with just one floor plan because this was something. I think part of my issue, or just the main issue in general, is that I'm really indecisive as far as where things go in a floor plan, and so I just readjust and readjust and readjust until I hate it. And so I really like it when there's already a shell to work with. Here I am with the upstairs, and I'm trying to decide if I want it to be the exact same as the bottom or if I want to leave some open areas, sort of interpretive as whoever the next person who got this decided to do after me. They could change just the inside, but not any of the walls. So if they wanted maybe it to be open to downstairs, they possibly could do that. Or if they wanted things to something be an office or an extra bathroom or whatever, it could be like that. I originally envisioned there possibly being a bathroom for a master bedroom on the left, but just the shape of the upstairs hallway wasn't right. And so I finished that off and I ended up moving on to terrain and landscaping. Yeah, here I am with some terrain tools. I wanted it up on sort of a hill, and I wanted it to be sort of where they could maybe interpret one of the entrances as the front door or the other one. So I wanted it to kind of look like, okay, which one do we go in? However, these stairs on the right decided that they don't want to stay. And I'm not sure if it was something to do with my terrain work or what, but yeah, it ended up looking kind of bubbly. So yeah, they did end up wanting me to add landscaping before the next person got the build. So I start trying to landscape, and I realize that my landscaping skills don't really include greenery. So I struggled with that for a couple of minutes, and then I decided we needed to change things up and move on. Here we go to Strangerville, and yeah, nice little cactus garden. That's something I could do. So here we go with a little nice cactus garden. It's definitely something that is more in my wheelhouse and something that I've practiced a little bit more. So that's what I went with. I definitely appreciate more that I have Vaporeuse to do these things so I don't have to. Doing a little bit of terrain paint, just kind of, I wasn't sure. That does include the landscape because obviously it's with the landscaping tools in the game. So I decided to go ahead and put that in a mailbox, which they probably could have changed. I thought maybe I would try to put a mailbox sort of with the little fence. And then here I'm able to take advantage of the tool mod by Twisted Mexi, and thank God for that because with this terrain being kind of up and down, the plants did not want to stay in the ground. They wanted to sort of float a little bit, so I was able to put them down into the ground and not look like they were floating. And you can't really see it 100% there, but you'll be able to see how much better it is once it's down. We're nearing the end of my section, so we're going to move on to what Vaporeuse did after what I did. And here Vaporeuse had to do the outside. Vaporeuse usually does the shell, landscape, and custom tool things, but the randomizer that we used gave her the exterior and roofs. It's funny because we talked about maybe taking the things that we were the least comfortable with, but the randomizer did that to us anyway. So she's making like a custom little porch, and she's going to change the stairs and the railings that I put, which is totally fine because it's part of the exterior. We didn't really define the rules of how we were going to implement this, so we're just kind of flying by the seat of our pants at this point, although it was very fun, and at the end of the video you'll see our reaction to what the other did. And I had only seen the shell, so I was the one that was the most surprised because I'd only seen the shell, and then they did everything else after I had done the shell. So it was really fun to see what they had done. And Vaporeuse really does not like doing roofs, so here you could just hear Noomix screaming about the roof when she saw it because she couldn't touch it. And we all are a little bit fiddly, so to not be able to touch anything was probably very hard for them because I didn't touch it after I did the shell. She did her best, and she even did these little custom windows, which are really cute, so I give her props for that. She's making a little custom porch out of debug items, which wasn't required. She just decided to go ahead and do that. We're so used to working with debug items that I think half the time we don't realize that we can actually use tools in the game. And if you notice, Vaporouse's game and her tool mod are in French because she's from France. I actually did not know that tool mod came in French. You learn something new every day. Twisted Mexi is actually the reason why I joined Patreon, to be able to support him, and I know that he had said that he couldn't change the name of items in the game to support different languages, so I don't know why I didn't think that the actual mod wasn't in other languages as well. So yeah, up here she could have used a fence, but she decided to go ahead and use some debug items for a custom fence upstairs, and put some little greenery around the windows and some creeping vines up the house. It's a nice touch. It's like she's doing landscaping, but on the house, which is totally her forte. And the little vines, this ends up being Noomix's balcony. And later on, I will explain the whole pea room thing from our intro video. She's doing a little bit of, I don't know what you would call that, like trim on the house. I'm sure at this point she really wants to touch my landscaping because it's not great, even though I am comfortable doing a rock garden. And of course lighting. I definitely forgot lighting. I don't know if that would be part of landscaping or what. Probably it would be, but I did not put any lighting outside. And she can't resist putting cracks in on the walls. She really likes doing things that are broken or abandoned. So I was pretty amused when I saw that she had to put cracks in the walls here. And see here, the stairs are fine. So I don't know what happened there. And here she is making a custom doorbell out of items in the game. That little beam and square are so useful for custom made items. Not custom content, but custom made items, because we don't use custom content in our builds. But we do love to make items that look like other items from debug and other items in the game. I think she put that there to be like a video call, but I wasn't really sure what that was, so when I fixed it, I did not include that in. Sorry, Vapo, it just didn't work with what I was going for. So she also had to choose the interior paint and put the doors and stuff inside the house. And the kitchen is very creative. Like I really like that little section in the middle there. But the people who live in this house really like that color a lot. Here she is adding a little bit more greenery. Kind of brings the house alive. I really like it a lot. And Noomix, she usually does the exterior of the house and the roofs. She has an eye for the overall feel of the build, and she also edits the bulk of our videos. She noticed that right here we did not add a railing to the stairs, so she made a custom railing. And who needs a dining table when we all just eat at our computers anyway? Just put a little bar there and some stools. I actually thought that this up here would be the living room, and I thought it was interesting that she made this the kitchen. Because the floor plan of the house that I used, this was the actual living room, but I think that it was a little wider than I ended up making it, so it makes sense. And she chooses these cute stools from Bowling Stuff. Love those stools. The stools have some really cute swatches, actually. And she's finishing up the kitchen here, adding some details, and she's putting some little curtains on the windows. I think she's keeping me in mind. She said she was about to give up and call me to do some detailed work. But that was not the challenge, and she persisted, and she did a good job. Honestly, she persisted and got it done. I don't know how she didn't touch that wallpaper because I really could not have resisted doing that, which I say that now and it's going to bite me in the butt because we're going to end up doing this again but switching the roles. So I'll probably have the furnishing part and not be able to touch the walls or any of my fiddly stuff that I like to do. It's going to be painful. And then we have a little bar with a counter that matches perfectly, making sure that there's lighting. And in the upstairs bathroom, which I thought it made smaller than that, but I guess not, she put a laundry room, which I guess is a European thing. Noomix is from Sweden. So we have our little discussions about how people do things in our own country. Do you have this there? Do you guys do this there? Kind of a thing. We don't really have cultural misunderstandings necessarily, but every once in a while we come up against something that really just tickles us. Like when I realized that Vapo does not put toilets in her bathrooms, and I can just hear Vaporeuse screaming because in France they usually don't have the toilet in the bathroom. They usually have a separate room, which is why we refer to a half bath as a pee room. Because we were doing a build a while ago and she did the shell and there were all these little tiny rooms and she labeled them cabinet, and everyone was like, why are there so many, why are there cabinets? The Sims don't use cabinet. And she's like, no, that's where you just pee. And we were like, so like a bathroom? And she's like, no, you only pee there, like a pee room. So now half bathrooms we are from now on called pee rooms. Just in case you wonder why we call them that, that's why. And she cringes when there's any bathrooms with toilets in them, which inevitably we do, but I keep her in mind and try to keep the toilet separate. Here Noomix is doing my bedroom, which she decided to be completely pink. I do love pink. I don't love that color of pink. Having said that, I'm currently wearing a shirt that is that color pink, but I'm not going out in public. And Noomix she wasn't sure what to do with these two rooms here, and she was at the yoga studio, and she decided, yeah, let's do yoga studio. and just make it a zen room with lots of plants and stuff. So she made this room an office, and I intended it on being a bathroom, but Vaporeuse put in the archways there, so obviously it could be a bathroom. So here's a little zen yoga studio, and she's putting in little detail work in the living room, which I'm super proud of her for that because it looks great. I think she sells herself a little short when it comes to details because she really is a good designer, but she doesn't have the eagle eye I have for tiny, tiny details. By the way, I'm a busybody and I can't help but like fiddle with all of. Again, I'm the detail work person, so I can't help but like fiddle with other people's stuff. But luckily, Vapo and Noomix don't really care that I do that, or they at least appreciate my eye for detail. Having said that, here I accidentally had let the tree clip through the wall, and since we couldn't touch the other person's stuff, she put that there to hide it. I think by that point I was probably overdoing landscaping, so I'm sorry, Noomix, that you had to hide that silly tree. We're getting close to the end of what Noomix did. She's adding last minute details and just little personalization things. I hope you will stick around for the rest of the video because we react to what the others had done. And remember, I had not seen any of this since the shell, so I might be a little biased, but I think it's pretty funny, so definitely stick around. What's it gonna look like?
A thing. It's gonna look like a whole thing.
Oh, and you put it in Windenburg, it's gonna be a mess.
Oh my god, yeah. Ah, you put it in Windenburg, oh my god.
It doesn't look
Here we
that
are.
bad from far away.
I just picked my favorite world, and here we are, okay?
It's my favorite too.
Yeah, that just with the landscaping, it's kind of weird.
Oh, it looks terrible in
You-
Windenburg.
So let me just say this. The people living here, they really like that color you see on the wall.
Yeah.
They really, really love that color.
Oh man. Oh, the no
Yeah,
CC
maybe
painting.
I lost control.
Yes, she did.
Oh fuck.
Oh wow. I thought this would be the living room here, and you made that the
Oh,
kitchen.
interesting. Yeah, because
Oh.
this had the door.
Yeah.
That's usually with the kitchen,
Mhm.
was my thought.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, I imagined the kitchen here too.
But yeah, it's really sparse because I suck at details. This
I like plants.
I made into a little office.
Oh, cute.
Now for the Noom eccentric streak. Okay, you ready for this?
Yeah.
Because
What?
I need to have an
Yeah.
eccentric thing going on. So I have a little yoga studio with a whole
Well,
lot
you
of
know.
plants.
Yeah, they do really like that color.
Oh yeah.
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 Upstairs too.
Yeah.
Do all the...
Someone forgot the railing, so I had to get creative.
Oh, I like it.
I thought the yoga room was going to be the living room.
Oh.
Where you placed the living room, I was like, dining room.
It's because I'm Swedish, so we need the no shoes in the house sign.
Hilarious. What the heck? No sink though.
Yeah. Because I still don't understand separate bathrooms. This was super fun though.
Yeah, it's special.
Well, it was bigger than I thought.
I started to try to do like a suburban slash whatever garden, and it looked terrible. And I was like, I could do a rock garden. That's the only thing I'm good at.
But we can do better.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
do better.
Let's do better.
Yes, please, let's fix it.